Hey, it's Conrad, the mortgage guy, and you're listening to
My World.
And of course, we couldn't do it without the Hall of Famer himself, the greatest professional wrestler of all time, your friend and mine, Double J, Jeff Jarrett. Jeff, how are you, man?
Oh, Conrad has got his toy box open this morning. Got all kinds of sound effects. Happy My World recording today. It's that time of year, Conrad. We're on Mondays. I just celebrate in my fantasy football domination, win after win after win. The Titans look great. The Vols look great. My man Code Dog, what a
wait. Did you say
no, this is My World. It's called. Oh, let me keep rolling now. So Cody had a hell of a day on Saturday. Lots of exciting games. We went out on the boat yesterday, took a little boat ride. The Queen's happy. A hell of a workout this morning. Joe Burrow looks like he's going to be out 3 months. Our friend and enemy, your friend and mine, Mr. Chris Park, PKA, the Monster Abyss, is in mourning right now. I don't know what else we need to cover other than if Cassio was here, I'd love to give him a good slap across the face because that may complete like the Monday morning blues. I don't have any, but man, a perfect weekend, Conrad. How are you doing, pal? Oh, a little silence over there, pal. A little silence over there.
Oh, no, it's My World. I was just knowing my role and shutting my mouth. It's My World.
Because it was a hell of a weekend. Hey, Roll Tide, we got to win there. Buddy, life it's fantastic. Just the delusional optimism is in high gear. Uh-oh, he's looking for the tool in the toolbox. You don't know which one you have over there. You don't even know what sound effect you're going to push, do you?
No, I'm not pressing any sound effect. I just am excited to be on the show. Want to welcome you guys to the show. We got a lot to talk about. We're going to talk about something special that happened at the ECW Arena.
Oh, yeah.
After the camera stopped rolling, we've got a big piece of nostalgia. I'm pretty excited. You know, Jeff, we've been talking about wrestling for a long time, but today will be the very first time we've been able to watch wrestling together, and it won't be a second screen experience. We've actually got the footage, and we're excited for you guys to check it out. If you haven't already, I encourage you to go check us out on YouTube. That's myworldpod.com, because you're going to get to see something that maybe you've never seen before as we celebrate Eddie Gilbert. We're going to talk a little bit about Eddie Gilbert. We're going to talk a little bit about Acclaimed. We're going to get a latest on Jerry Lawler. I don't know if you saw, but my former brother-in-law made some headlines this past weekend.
Oh, no.
And we found out that WrestleMania is leaving America. So we've got a lot to cover, but before we do, I thought we should hit the big stuff. I know that we love to have a lot of fan engagement and interaction right at the top of the show. I want to remind everybody that this Thursday night, you're going to be hanging out with a group of our family members over at adfreeshows.com. It's what we call Ask Jeff Anything, and it's happening live. Now, it's different than in our YouTube channel because on this particular circumstance, you're going to get a Zoom link. Jeff will be on camera. You'll be on camera. You can see each other, and you'll get to ask your question face-to-face, one-on-one with the last outlaw himself. And, well, listen, we've done it before. Let's have a look.
Oh, wait, Philly. So yes, Philly is a hot topic in this house. Are you a Philadelphia Phillies fan?
Hell no.
Okay.
I'm sorry to say that. No, I unfortunately, I don't like any Philly team whatsoever.
We've had this discussion.
That's right.
We sure have. Are you coming to any of the shows?
Yeah. I know a guy that might help me out and get into one of the shows. We know him very well. So
you got it.
So I should be at one of the Dynamites.
Holler at me. Yeah, definitely.
I got a question for you, and I hope this is not a sore spot, whatever. But with all the stuff that's going on with the streaming wars and the competition between, companies and stuff like that, what you think your old man would have thought about all this going on?
He would have a great appreciation for the deal making that Nick Khan's done with the ESPN and Netflix and just all the things to go with it. That's part one of your question. Part two, I think you're kind of talking about the wrestling war.
Yeah.
And he knew, in hindsight, when cable television came along and there were no handshake agreements from a territory perspective, he understood that, you know, even when WWF started to come into our territory, he would tell Lawler, and I heard the conversations, we've got to be better. Our show's got to be more attractive, and whatever it may be, it's hard to compete. But he loved the competition aspect of it. He thinks that, you know, he would always, the amount of times, Coach, I've heard his story that, son, if you put up a hamburger place on one corner and you open up a hamburger place across the street, both of them are going to have better years, but the one who figures out how to make the best burger wins. But he would always follow it up. But man, oh man, I don't mind coming in second place with a shitty burger if I can figure out how to make money off it. So he respects the competition.
That's what you can expect at adfreeshows.com. And we've got a lot of family members over there, including a new one, Alexa Bodum. I'll get it right. Alexi Bodum just joined with us at a top guy over at adfreeshows.com. Christopher Young is going to be celebrating his 4-year anniversary with us this December. And Anthony Pyers, man, he's been with us sort of from the beginning, April of 2020. Come join us. It's happening this Thursday night live at adfreeshows.com. And we had a whole host of folks doing these last week. And I think this Wednesday, we've got Jim Ross. We had David Crockett last week, Tony Schiavone last week, Jeff Jones last week, Eric Bischoff last week. Something for everybody happening at adfreeshows.com, Jeff.
The judge. So, yeah, I mean, you chatted offline about that, but no, it's said it since the day I joined the family, and you twisted my arm long enough, but no, I shared this with my accountant often when we have different kind of conversations and the StarCast conversations. And look, it's no secret going back to the picture money days that, the wrestling is more than inside the squared circle, and the fan engagement that you provide or the ad-free family provides, it's second to none. You will not get this anywhere in the world. That's no BS, pal. So happy to do it. Thursday night, we get the one-on-one conversations, Coach and all kinds of folks, man. Little Jimmy, but no, you get to know the folks. They are family by the end of the cycle of doing the rounds and Top Guy weekends coming up, Connie, and Ask Jeff Anything. These things are fun, and kind of on a weekly basis, Conrad. When you see a name drop in the YouTube chat, me and you both kind of nod our head to it and go, okay, there's a family member. And one way or another, they always get their information provided or their question answered.
Yeah. And you know what? Lots of fun relationships spin up out of this. Like I know Coach Rosie has developed a real life relationship with Lori Bischoff, Eric's wife. And I think Efren is tight with the Queen, Karen Jarrett. So you never know what's going to happen at adfreeshows.com. Make plans to join us. I want to mention that over the weekend, something fun happened, and you sent this to me, and I thought it was absolutely fantastic. I don't know why exactly. Maybe the fair was in town or something like this.
A 10-day run. It's been going on for years, off and on. But anyway, I won't get into the whole historical perspective, but the Tennessee State Fair has been running in Nashville for, decades and decades. And they've, like any fair, has had their ups and downs, Connie, through the years. But it was back, Global Force days, 14 or 15, when we kind of reignited the relationship because wrestling, it was this old sports arena and there wasn't a lot going on. And we sat down and figured out 10 straight nights. And Pro Wrestling Entertainment, my man Jason James, I've worked with him for years. He came to work for us at TNA way back. I mean, he's a kid now. I still look at him, but he literally was a teenager then. But no, anyway, so they run every night out at the fair. Some nights during the week, they run 2 shows, but they have their big show at the very end of the run, and that was this Saturday night. So the Tennessee State Fair, and oh man, I won't get too far ahead of it, but it was a hell of a card. You were going to show a clip.
Let's get some context here. The fairgrounds is the original home of the Wednesday night TNA show way back when, right?
The fairgrounds is where the asylum stood, but for longtime wrestling fans, it was the Nashville Sports Arena, and it held sellout houses with Idol and Lawler, Andy Kaufman. There's a clip online that goes way back about Andy Kaufman sitting in the little office that I had for a while and all that. But Kaufman, I thought it was one of those raw, none of his stuff was real polished, but it was if you really knew. But It was so off the cuff. And the local affiliate NBC, we were on a U powered. We're not on the NBC affiliate, but they came out. A guy named Charlie McAlexander, local sports guy in Nashville, came out to cover the spectacle, and they asked for a few words with Andy, and they stuck that camera in there, and oh my God, it's gold. But anyway, there's a racetrack. The racetrack still stands out there. That's where also the new soccer stadium is. It's up on top of the hill. They tore down the old sports arena where the Asylum was, and down now kind of at the bottom of the hill, it's three fantastic. It's where StarCast, it's where Ric Flair last match was held. So yes, Conrad, I got to see some folks Saturday night that I have literally been with or worked around. Next year, as you know, will be my 40th year. Some of those we added up the other night, 43 and 45 years. There's a guy out there that retired 5 years ago, and he still comes out to the fairgrounds 2 or 3 days a week because it's in his blood. But man, yeah, a lot of folks, it's like family that I have known folks out there forever and ever and ever. But yeah, Saturday night was a big show. It was great. A lot of fun.
Well, you say it's like family, and I can't believe this is real, but Cody Angle made what might be his in-ring debut, and I think that makes him 4th generation. Let's take a look. How fun is that, man?
Look, I am glad that you are. I knew when I sent it to you, I said, "Oh shoot," I wanted you to see it from a personal point of view, but I said, "Oh, this is definitely podcast material."
I mean, listen, let's be honest. It's not every day that you get, the son of Kurt Angle and Jeff Jarrett making their in-ring debut, and it happens. Where else would it happen but in the Nashville Fairgrounds? Like, that's kind of a cool thing, man.
Oh, and look, we got there, and Jay Lethal was originally booked. He was supposed to be Jay and Satnam, so I was going to go out and look. Cody has his fun all the time, but Jay's back is still tweaked, and so Satnam, and as a last minute replacement, my man Mike Bennett, who's moved to the Middle Tennessee area, stepped up to the plate. And Conrad, I got there, and then my oldest daughter Jocelyn and her boyfriend Matthew, and then Kira, our daughter, and her boyfriend Dallas. Anyway, so there's a family, and I was kind of going between the dressing room and over there and chatting and all that. And I came back in, Conrad, and Cody walks right up to me and said, "Yep, Dad, I'm stunning somebody tonight." And I just went, "Oh God, please, what are we getting ourselves into?" But I tell you what, they had I wish, there's multiple camera angles, Connie, so we may have to provide those to you. But the people,
I think I have it in slow-mo too. I mean, we'll post that to social. We'll make sure we post that to social. Go see Cold Stone Cody Angle make his debut.
And yes, that is Karen's voice. Mama Karen was screaming at the top of her lungs. So were the sisters and lots of people. It was kind of cool. And as you can tell, Codes, he was repping that Steelers jersey. I said, "Codes, this is Tennessee Titan territory. I don't care. I'm a Steeler fan." Okay, Codes. It was.
I love that. You know what I didn't think about until just now? You remember that show in the 80s, My Two Dads?
Yes.
And I thought to myself, has this happened before where somebody has 2 Hall of Fame wrestling dads? And I think it's Tessa Blanchard and Cody Angle.
There you go.
I mean, Tully and Magnum,
That's
and
right.
then Kurt Angle and Double J. Like, that's pretty rare at rarefied air. We got to get a picture with Tessa and Cody together one day.
Oh, that's good. That is good. Yeah. Oh, Codes.
And by the way, here's what's fun for me. If you've been watching this show for very long, you remember, it was about 3 summers ago that Jeff and I had kind of a wild idea, and you couldn't help yourself, and you sent me a video that made me chuckle. Of course, I sent it to Silva. Let's take a look.
Oh no. Hey, Codes, what are we pointing at right there?
Ric Flair.
What happened right there?
You beat him up.
No, Mom tried to kill Ric Flair right there.
We did it the hard way.
Karen looking right at the camera, like the cat that ate the canary, saying, "We did it the hard way." Because if you'll recall, folks, peek behind the curtain, Rick was ready with the gimmick on the finger. You know what I'm talking about. He was ready to run the blade, as the kids say. And it wasn't necessary because a high heel came in at high velocity. And Richard Morgan Fleer couldn't help but say, "It's a hard way, guys. It's a hard way." And poor Jay Lethal, boy, he changed colors immediately and backed up, just spooked. And you went full tilt madman. And all these years later, Karen's just looking at her handiwork. Yeah, I damn near killed Ric Flair right here in this spot. It was fantastic, Jeff.
We parked right around, and as I got there and walk up the little platform, I said, "Coach, you know where we're at?" "Yeah, you beat up Rick right here." No. And then I went, "Hold on, let me get this phone out," because I had to send it to you, Conrad. Because we came in there. And anyhow, that was another private video that you're making public, but all fun. But it was, yeah, I loved how Karen just stepped right, because I said, "Come here, Karen, I want you in this too. We got to send it to Conrad. He'll chuckle," because me and you had been texting about something right then. So,
yes.
Yeah. So
it was fantastic. And it was a hard way. And if you're looking to do things the hard way, look no further than Bluechew. Guys, now you can enter the room dick first. Bluechew isn't just a tablet. It's a cheat code for your crunch. Stronger, harder, longer lasting. Like somebody gave you downstairs a pep talk and a gym membership. Bluechew is the original brand offering chewable tablets for better sex. It turns out this ain't a supplement. This is an erection resurrection. Guys, we're not just talking about performance. We're talking about your legacy or your third legacy. Give her group chat something to talk about. Nothing makes you more of a little legend than Bluechew. Discover your options at bluechew.com. And we've got a special deal for our listeners. As always, get your first month of Bluechew free. Just use the promo code MyWorld to check out and pay $5 for shipping. That's it. Join Bluechew's mission to upgrade humanity one thrust at a time. Head on over to bluechew.com for details and important safety information. And big thanks to Bluechew for sponsoring today's podcast. You know, Bluechew, unlike the Tennessee Volunteers, is hard to beat. I don't know if you saw over the weekend, Jeff, because I know you said you had a great weekend, and it made myself think to myself, I thought Jeff might look like this poor fella right here who was watching that game on Saturday. And then I thought to myself, you know what would be fun for the listeners of My World? Since Tennessee had this game in hand and just fumbled the bag and gave it away, why don't we give away an 8x10?
Okay.
Autographed by the Last Outlaw. You had a little fun a couple of weeks ago, and right now you can color with Conrad. That's right. Go ahead and color this poor sap. May or may not be related to Double J himself. I think that's Jeff's brother. We've never seen him. You can't deny that it is. You don't know it's not. But what we want you to do is go ahead and print this off. We'll have it posted to our socials. You print it out, color it up, and we'll pick a winner next week right here on the program. Somebody is going to get an autographed 8x10 from Double J. You know, I mentioned that Bluechew's hard to beat. Well, apparently Tennessee is not, at least when it comes to Georgia. I don't know if you've seen the stats on the, oh my gosh, look at that. That fella, he's getting rearranged. He may need to go to Pittsburgh and see about doing a neck fusion after that. I'm not sure. But I don't know that you've seen the stats and how all this shook out, but it's kind of like a tradition for you guys to tote an ass whooping when Georgia's in town. Are you in the loop on that? Let's take a look at the stats. I don't know if you've seen this, but there you see the Last Outlaw. Well, let's see. They got that ass waxed in 17 and 18 and 19 and 20 and 2021, 2022, 23, 24, and 25. Golly, how old was Cody the last time Tennessee beat Georgia?
He
was he even potty trained or walking by that point? That's a young man, but I mean, gosh, has he seen it? Does he remember seeing Tennessee beat Georgia? Nobody else does.
Out of Kirby Smart's own mouth, damn you, Conrad. The head coach, the legendary, he's rolling into that rare air, if you ask me. He said flat out after the game, Tennessee outplayed us. Tennessee outplayed us. Tennessee outplayed us.
Well, you know, it's funny because at the end, I felt like Georgia won and Tennessee lost. So
let's move on. And you know what? in this world of violence and hate, it's really, 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 really easy to get mad at that damn kicker. So I'm going to refrain. But dadgum, he hit the freaking kick in the oh man, it's tough.
Listen, let's talk about happier stuff. Let's get that contest back up there. Color with Conrad. Just go right now to our social, print this off. We're going to have it there ready for you to color. And the winner is going to get an autographed 8x10. You know, we're just having fun. I know that Tennessee's a baseball school or a volleyball school or some such
we're baseball, we're basketball.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't drop in the rankings. I don't know if you saw Vanderbilt. We won't get into all that, but
yeah, let's talk about some wrestling if you don't mind. Before we do, I heard through the grapevine you've got a new action figure. Is that right?
Right on, brother. It's out. You know, our producer extraordinaire, Mr. Silva, always quick with the images up. But yes, that just came out over the last 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days. You can get it at Ringside Collectibles, WrestlingFigures.com. But man, it is a cool looking. Those guys do a hell of a job, don't they, Conrad? I mean, they do.
These might be the most advanced wrestling figures ever. This is your second AEW figure, isn't it?
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, they both look cool.
Yeah. First one just flew off the shelf, pal. But no, it's I do. I think I've worn this outfit I don't know 4 or 5 times, and me and Karen both decided, you know, the outfit looked good, but the one that's in the picture on the lower right, I think it pops better on camera. But as a figure, I believe this outfit it may be my favorite. So very cool of those guys, and go pick one up, man. They're exclusives. There's not a lot made, is my understanding.
Is this outfit one and still in regular rotation, or have you retired it?
It's on the chopping block to get retired.
When you retire these, I know you've never done it before, but can I convince you to get those framed up nice, matted and all that? I got a guy who can do that and make it look nice, and I think it would be cool if we framed some of your old gear and we had the corresponding figure underneath it. It would make a neat little display.
Ooh, you know what? There's a few action, not baseball cards. I got buddies that talk about the value of baseball cards, but if you took the baseball card with
the figure and the outfit, it could be a really cool display. We'll talk about that in the future. We love celebrating the history and nostalgia of wrestling. I know we've been talking about some news, and we are still going to talk about some news, but I don't think anybody loves the history of wrestling more than you and I. And if there is a close third, or maybe he's above us, Tony Khan did something that I don't think a lot of people would have expected last week, following the live episode and live recording of Dynamite. And then I think you guys put Collision in the can, but I want to just set the stage for you, because you guys paid tribute to somebody that you were pretty near and dear, Eddie Gilbert. How does this come about, Jeff?
You know, to me, it is I have to say that you got to put Tony in that extremely rare air, because and look, there are historians, you know, not just across the country, around the world, but Tony did the you know, I will call it the induction of Taz. How do I say that, Conrad? Into the 2300 Arena.
That's right. The Hardcore Hall of Fame.
Hardcore. That's what I was looking. Hardcore Hall of Fame. And so, you know, it's my understanding that Tony was looking for, how do we pay tribute to the history of that arena? And, you know, our mutual buddy, Blue Meanie, I got to see him multiple times over the residency, and he gave me some context, and Jeff Jones did as well. There were a couple of folks that, you know, in the conversations, I was WWF or WCW during that run. And so I never worked for ECW in the arena days. At TNA, I worked there. But anyway, Tony wanted to lay kind of tribute. And I just, he came up to me at the wedding, and we had a quick conversation. And so I kind of got the heads up and started connecting the dots, and all came together. But, you know, I'll just say Tony's knowledge and really drill down and like, hey man, let's get Doug here. And then it just, ironically, Tommy and Doug were going to be together. They worked.
I don't mean to cut you off, Jeff, but some people don't know who Tommy and Doug are. Tell us who Tommy and Doug are.
I appreciate that. Doug Gilbert is Eddie Gilbert's younger brother. who still lives down in West Tennessee. We're the Gilbert family, and Eddie's, and I'll get into that. I don't know how much you want me to talk right now, because I could talk a while, but I will kind of lay it out that Tony came and had the conversation, and then we started putting the piece together because we were going to give a tribute to Eddie Gilbert. And so the players that were on the field, if you will, were going to be Eddie's younger brother, Doug, and then one of Eddie's tag team partner, specifically in the Tennessee territory, with Tommy Rich. They had a long history, but Tommy also had a history in ECW Arena. And then myself, and when me and Tony were talking, I mean, there were so many different stories, and I got a chance to share just really one of them in the tribute. But me and Eddie had quite a bit of history. He was really good to me. I mean, when he came in and worked the Tennessee territory a couple of times, but we go so far back. My dad divorced my mom. Second marriage was Deborah Marlin. And so her father, Eddie Marlin, who everyone knows is the figurehead, if you will, he promoted a lot of shows, and he was my dad's right-hand man for years. But before he took a role in the office, he was a wrestler, and his tag team partner was Tommy Gilbert. And Eddie Marlin and Tommy Gilbert were the babyface tag team around here for years and years and years. So that's how far back I go back. The Jarretts go back with the Gilberts. I mean, 2 generations, multiple generations, and lots of roads. And when I broke in, Tommy was good to me, and I had all kind of flashbacks when Tony went into, just like, hey, this is what I want to do as the tribute to close down our residency. And when you started to hear Doug's story, and obviously he's the brother, and there's so many, but Doug had specific stories about Eddie having an apartment in Philly, and Doug would fly in and between trips from Japan to Tennessee, but a lot of times he got routed to Philly because he worked in Philly. And the first guy to jump out of the crow's nest, Conrad, I don't know if you know this, but as legend has it, but it was Doug. Doug was the first one. He had the scaffold match. So Doug had a lot of history. Tommy had a lot of history, like I said, with Eddie, and that's Tommy Rich, the former NWA World Heavyweight Champion, who's also, to my knowledge, the only other wrestler who has billed from Hendersonville, Tennessee. Tommy was trained in my dad's basement, and so he got hot as a pistol and went down to Atlanta, and things took off, and he beat Harley, and he was a champion for a cup of coffee. But anyway, a lot of history there. And then, Conrad, to bring it all home, when I first heard the name, oh, wow, okay, Sting's coming in for this tribute. This is really cool. And so because look, again, I want to make sure I'm talking, know who the audience I'm talking to. Some people don't realize I knew just as a real casual, Jim Hellweg, Ultimate Warrior, Steve Borden, Sting came to Tennessee, and they were the Blade Runners. They didn't last very long. Sting tells the story pretty good. They were here for a little while, and my dad went to both of them and basically had to let them go because they just weren't seasoned enough. Well, both of them were hired by Bill Watts. My dad sent them to Bill Watts because there was a lot of talent exchange going on back in the day. Went down there, and immediately those two guys got paired up with Eddie Gilbert. Behind the scenes, Eddie was booking, loved the business, and he tried to teach them. And this is where Sting kind of got into the real heart of it, that I just was like, wow, this tribute really took on a full meaning. I mean, I've got a history with him. Obviously, Doug's his brother. Tommy's all this. But then when Tony Khan's vision for this tribute, it just went so deep. And so as Sting got into the story that he meets Eddie, Eddie's booking, he would get to buildings early, not just show him the ins and outs about psychology and the finish and the mechanics of the wrestler, but the respect. Sting came up to me backstage, and because he approached me and he's like, hey man, so just kind of what's the production order? And I said, hey, this is what I've heard. And then I said, hey man, I'll let you do the line share. I don't want to. Doug will talk. Tommy, I said, I'll say a few words. He's like, no, you talk. Anyway, so we kind of worked out. But, man, when Sting got into his story and he closed, and Conrad, I don't want to get too long-winded here, but the way Sting closed and I'll just kind of go where Tony went as well. The way Sting closed it, because Sting said that it was the 2 years that he spent with Eddie Gilbert, and the next thing he knows, he's working main events, and by circumstances, Dusty looks at him and says, hey, because an injury here and an injury there, I'm going to put you with Flair on Clash of the Champions in that legendary match that put him on the map. And Sting honestly and candidly said, when I look at my career and look back on it, and Tony's mindset to pay tribute, and Sting admitted, which I thought was incredibly vulnerable, but so real. He's like, it gave me a real hard look to really think, without Eddie's tutelage and care and passion for the industry and wanting to help me, I don't know if Sting has the career that he had. And so I got goosebumps hearing it backstage, and then he basically kind of repeated it, but in a more articulate form. And he went on to have a legendary career. And then as Tony spoke and some others spoke, and you think about, so that's one thing that was super heavy to me, really, really heavy, that when you look at how much credit Sting gave to Eddie Gilbert for his career, because, by this time, anybody's listening to this podcast, everyone is aware of the Jerry Jarrett Sting relationship. And then you think Sting, Eddie Gilbert, and then boom, on to a incredible, iconic career. And then to kind of bring it all home, Sting said this, Tony said this, but Eastern Championship Wrestling, the precursor to ECW, Eddie was the driver. Eddie was the visionary. Eddie was the booker. And he took, King of Philadelphia is straight out of Memphis, King of Memphis, Jerry Lawler, Jerry Jarrett, Vision, and all that. And so when you think about Eddie's position, we'll call it in the ECW arena, without Eddie Gilbert's vision, is there an ECW? And so laying that kind of heavy stuff on it, I go back to in that anybody can be a fan of professional wrestling and know stats and know, who won the championship and where they won it and I'll just call it all the stats from a historical perspective. But to kind of know the respect and the position and the real meaning, my hat's off to Tony, because I'll say, knowing the straw that stirred the drink, I just got so much respect for that. And Tony, that was what his tribute was about, that let's pay proper respect to the guy, maybe the straw that really stirred the drink of Philadelphia. And here we are all those years later. And look, the building has a new look and a new feel, and things are positioned around. But truth be known, that building is, it doesn't have all of its bright spots, but it's got some historic lore that there would not be an AEW Dynamite Collision for 3 consecutive weeks, a Ring of Honor pay-per-view in that building, candidly, had it not been for Eddie Gilbert's vision. So that's how Tony closed it. And I thought it was a incredibly meaningful tribute.
I thought so too. And I was hopeful that we would be able to show the footage. I know that Eddie Gilbert used to come out to a pretty iconic Donna Summer song. Remind everybody what his nickname was in wrestling, Jeff.
Oh, Hot Stuff Eddie Gilbert. And the hot stuff. And look, that's where I'll kind of get into favorite memories and all that kind of stuff, because one of the things that Lawler did back in the day that was throw the fireball. And to me, there's a little risk in that. You kind of got to know what you're doing. You got to have the timing of it. There's just some of the magic trick. You can some of the magic trick. You just got to, I'll just say, kind of know what you're doing. So Eddie learned that from Lawler. And so the hot stuff to me always fit when he'd throw the fireball, but obviously it came off of the Donna Summer song. And it was, Eddie, to me, what a heel he was, man. Just a incredible heel. That King of Philadelphia. I mean, I could go on and on and on about Eddie and the family stories and running up down the roads and it just so much to it. But back to the tribute, Conrad. Let me ask you: when you heard about it, what was your initial thought?
I thought it was fantastic. You know, I want to pull the curtain back a little bit. You and I did a group text with Tony Khan, and he was actually going to try to be on this show to talk about the tribute because he's such a big wrestling fan, and this meant so much to him. And as you may know, the Jaguars are in season right now, and he's got a huge pay-per-view this weekend. So he's actually on a plane right now and unable to join us, but maybe we'll get him on here another time to talk a little nostalgia wrestling. Because Jeff, I know you've had the pleasure not only to meet, but to work closely with Tony for a few years now. And man, does his whole demeanor and face light up when you talk about nostalgia wrestling? He loves it like we do. And that's what I wanted some of our audience to understand, because most everybody listening to this is a nostalgia fan. They grew up watching Jeff Jarrett. And in that regard, Tony's just like us, right? He just loves the old stuff.
You may say that, but I don't think I've ever, and there are a few but because, heck, I'll share this story, Conrad. When my father passed away, we passed away on February 14th. So the following Tuesday, which was a Tuesday, following Tuesday was the 21st. We had his services here in Hendersonville, and then Tony came. Tony Schiavone obviously came, and also came, and Sanjay Dutt, all friends. And so after the service, we had the meal and the dinner, and then I came home, and I was going to Dynamite, and I rode on Tony's plane out. And Conrad, that's when, you're on a plane from Nashville to Phoenix, you got some time to kick back and chat. The depth of knowledge that Tony has blew me away, because there are, Mark James, a friend of the show, I could name 20 Memphis wrestling buddies or fans. I got a group chat of folks that just old school wrestling fans. It was, like every territory that you grow up around. And then, now as the years go by, there's folks that were really Attitude Era fans that remember like every, the different episodes, and, hey, I remember this episode on Thunder, all that kind of stuff. Tony's, he's from Illinois, but he knows Memphis wrestling. He knows all kinds of wrestling. Let me just, because I don't want to say just Memphis, but we got into an in-depth conversation on the plane. We followed it up a little bit at the wedding about his knowledge of Austin Idol and the intricacies of Idol didn't come in studio. He sent in interviews, and Tony was like, man, it'd been great to do an Idol angle in studio, just kind of the ins and outs and the working and the mindset and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, Conrad, oh boy, I could talk forever about it, because,
let me help you with this. I know that you and I spoke after that, and it had really clicked for you how big of a fan of professional wrestling Tony was. So much so that even at your dad's service, as you guys, I think, are on that plane from Nashville to Phoenix, he said, "Hey, I got to meet Dave Brown." Just the idea that here's a guy who owns AEW, who owns the Jaguars. And I know people hear that and they think he's not relatable. He's just like us. He was excited to meet Dave Brown.
Yeah.
Isn't that cool?
Oh, look, there are so many times, and I don't say I take it for granted, but there are the fandom in all of us.
Yes.
I grew up around Dave. I grew up around Lance. They were a part of the wrestling family, if you will, whether it's the referees or the announcers or the box office folks. Al Antes, the old building manager in Louisville Gardens, he was like best friends with my grandmother, all these different kind of folks. But people that, I was a fan. I love, even in my, right when I broke in, I used to love to kind of watch the Sportatorium shows. I used to love to watch on my dad's big C-band satellite, the shows from the Garden. I was just into that. The TBS deal was almost such a nature, and my dad had booked there, and Tommy Rich went down this, but just kind of the old school stuff. I can remember early in my career, I would watch the Don Owen shows. I wouldn't get it a lot, but I would get, oh, hey man, my buddy's got this tape. You want to see this? Bring the tape home, watch it, and then bring it back the next day, whatever. So I wasn't any tape trader or anything like that, but just little clips of that. Well, Tony can remember and recall, but the fandom of it is it's really cool to see. Honestly, it's in the DNA of him.
And I think that's what a lot of people who were critical of the residency at the old ECW Arena didn't understand. Tony wanted to celebrate the history in that building and not take it for granted. I mean, we all talk about these iconic wrestling venues. Why wouldn't you want to add AEW to that legacy? And what a legacy was celebrated with Eddie Gilbert. You know, normally when people think about that building, they think about Paul Heyman, but I don't think a lot of our listeners know that Paul Heyman would even give a lot of his booking inspiration and credit to Eddie Gilbert. Now, we broke some of that down on episode 198 of My World, where we were talked about the 30-year anniversary of Eddie's passing. It's available for you now in the archives. I encourage you to check it out. But as you'll recall, Todd Gordon was the original founder, if you will, of Eastern Championship Wrestling, and that's actually in the shadows of Joel Goodhart's running a bunch of big, super independent shows in the area. And that's really how Eddie gets introduced into the mix. And he looked up to Jerry Lawler just like you did. So he made himself the king of Philadelphia. And when Todd Gordon was looking for a booker, he looked no further than Eddie Gilbert. And you mentioned earlier his brother, Doug, jumping off the crow's nest. Well, I want to give the context in case you don't know what we're talking about. A lot of our listeners have seen New Jack jump off of a balcony in the ECW Arena. And when he did that in the mid-90s, people thought, oh my God, this is the craziest, greatest thing we've ever seen. And New Jack gets a lot of credit for being the first guy to jump off of stuff like we've seen Sting and Darby Allin and a lot of other guys do since. But it was actually Eddie's brother, Doug, who did that in that building. So if you're going to pay tribute to Eddie, who better than to bring in his brother and a guy who has his own history in that very building? Speaking of history in that building, Tommy Rich, not only a Memphis legend and someone who grew up with Eddie Gilbert, but also one really critical piece of the full-blooded Italians. Everybody knows Tommy Rich is from Nashville, Italy. That's not a secret. And you never worked for ECW, but all the shows since, of course, you've been in that building. But then Sting, you know, as the legend goes, and if and when AEW posts this, you'll see Sting share the story that the story has been out there for a long time. After he was trying to find his voice and his identity, and so was a young Rick Steiner, Eddie Gilbert saw the raw talent in a Rick Steiner and a Sting and said, give me those guys. And we all know what happened from there with Sting and the Steiners. They became megastars. So we paid tribute to Eddie Gilbert in an awfully big way. I thought it was really, really cool. Stay tuned. I'm sure it's going to be posted on the AEW YouTube soon. The rumor and innuendo is they might even be doing a little licensing to make it seem and feel even cooler. I'm glad that we got to celebrate the history there because AEW did this residency at the ECW Arena. They brought the bleachers back for the first time. You saw young rising stars sort of cut their teeth like Tajiri and Super Crazy and guys before them. Well, now all of a sudden here's Billington and Adam Priest. I mean, really making their name for themselves during this residency. And you also had Jerry Lynn. I mean, he ripped off the shirt and he's getting involved with the former Acclaim guys. And we celebrated Taz and put his banner up and, hey, the lights off, lights on for his son. That's the first offspring of an ECW original to compete in the arena. So there's a lot of really cool stuff that happened if you're a hardcore wrestling fan. And I think AEW deserves a lot of credit for allowing that to happen. And of course, none of it happens without Tony Khan's fandom is what I'm trying to drive home.
Yeah. And, you know, sitting down at catering with Doug, because they flew in, I was there Wednesday and Thursday, Conrad. I don't even know if I've shared this with you, even in text, whatever. Anyway, so Tommy and Doug landed, checked in the hotel, and then we rode over to the building together. And there was a gentleman outside who had been there a couple of weeks anyway. He said, hey, man, hey, Jeff, can I get a picture? And I said, yeah, come on over. So anyway, we took a picture and we got into the conversation. He said, hey, man, I was a part of the Joel Goodhart trips from Philly. And I think you know this, Conrad, but our man Blue Meanie was a part. I said, yeah, Meanie was too. Anyway, so this gentleman outside took the picture, took our picture, and then I got an Uber, and us three are driving down, and me, Tommy, and Doug. That's one of those things that, man, if I'd had the thing you were talking about, just a blog like camera to put on, attached to the window and shoot our conversation, it went right into. And look, I know I'm biased, and this just always comes out wrong. But Tommy's the one who kind of led. Yeah, buddy. All starts in Memphis somehow, some way, but he kind of went down that road. And Tommy to this day still has his Hendersonville pride. And I asked him, and we checked up on different names that have been around Sumner County here at home for years and years and years. But we got into that. But then he got into Eddie, and then that's when at catering, me and Doug sat down, and I said, I just want to make sure I have the timeline right on different things. And Eddie worked for WWF back in the day, and how he kind of got his break and his car wreck, and we've covered that on that episode. But just how much Eddie studied Memphis, and that's what I shared in the ring, because that's the Jerry Jarrett, and if the tribute comes out, but if it doesn't, I'll share it here. That's the Eddie that I thought maybe the world doesn't look at the lens of Eddie Gilbert through the lens that Jerry Jarrett did. And my old man would always say that, look, me and Dad have these conversations or whatever it may be, and Dad would share it to Eddie or to Doug or Tommy back. Anyway, everybody that came into the territory, essentially just about everybody, my dad booking and owning and all that, everybody wanted to be the next Lawler or Lawler's opponent or whatever it may be. And Eddie had that, the king of Memphis, the king of Philadelphia, and all this. But from a real early age, Eddie was the only guy that did that, we'll call it the hang around, or had the opportunity, no matter who it was. I mean, so many people have come through there. Nobody would come to Jerry, my dad, with, hey, here's 10 ideas, or here's 10 angles, or here's 5 angles. And then my dad was nurturing a relationship. He said, hey, write me a TV show and do this and do that. And he was nurturing him along. And my dad told Eddie, hey, Eddie, you don't need to beat up your body for the rest of your career. You need to be a booker. You need to really dial in and think through and take on booking jobs, because that's what this industry needs. People need to understand the art of drawing money, how to create stories and angles and storylines, and push the envelope and draw all those kind of things. And so that's what I shared in the ring, is that my old man looked at Eddie and loved him as a performer. And he worked for the family off and on for years, but my dad looked at him and thought his most valuable component or contribution to the business would be a booker. And so I think that is a really cool message. And when you think about Eddie's contributions to the business, it is that. And you look at Philly. So anyway, I just thought, yeah, it's cool. And Tony knows all of this history, and that's how he wanted to close down the residency. So hats off.
I mean, I think when people think about the ECW arena, they think about the hardcore brawls. They think about brawling all over the building and bleeding and weapons. Said differently, they think about the Tupelo concession stand just years later in Memphis. So it does really all start there. I mean, we all know how many legendary matches Terry Funk had there with his incredible feud with Jerry Lawler. And that too, I mean, Terry Funk, he's there. And he's having those concession stand type brawls with guys like Cactus Jack. And it was really impressive. It was a who's who of who've been there, and only Tony Khan could get Sting in the old ECW arena. Think about how crazy this is. This is a wrestling company that was created by a guy who attended shows in this building as like a reward for getting a good test grade or report card or what have you. He did well in grade school, and his dad allowed him to go to this building. Later, he starts his own wrestling company, lands a program on the network that airs Nitro that made Sting a household name. He hires Sting and puts Sting in the old ECW arena. It was really cool. I don't think a lot of people would have had this on their bingo card. It's pretty crazy to even think about Sting in the ECW arena, is it not?
Never been there. That's a first. He pulled off a first for sure. But yeah, I mean, yeah, we've covered it, Connie. It's just,
Shout out to Eddie Gilbert and shout out to Mando. You know that feeling. It's game day. You've been working hard all week. Your lucky jersey, well, it might be smelling a little too lucky. I mean, let's be honest. Regular deodorant doesn't cut it. After a long day, things can get pretty ripe. But there's a game changer. Mando deodorant plus sweat control. This isn't just another cover up. Mando is one stick with two jobs: powerful odor and sweat control. It stops odor before it even starts. No more masking, just freshness. You see, with the clinical strength sweat control, it's one swipe and you're good to go. This isn't your typical deodorant. It's clinical strength. It controls both sweat and odor for 72 hours. And after just 12 hours, underarm sweat was reduced by 92%. This stuff really works. This is deodorant that's been re-engineered to stop odor before it even starts. You see, Mando doesn't just mask odor, Mando prevents it. Check this out. 100% of the study participants experienced all-day odor protection. And that's because Mando has premium ingredients. Unlike the other deodorants that are loaded with chemicals, Mando uses mandelic acid. It's gentle and it keeps you fresh and dry. Think of Mando as like double protection. It tackles both odor and sweat. And Mando's new deodorant plus sweat control stick gives you that double protection you need. No more worrying about embarrassing sweat stains or embarrassing pit rings, just all day freshness and dryness. And Mando starter pack is perfect for new customers. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, and 2 free products of your choice, like the mini body wash and deodorant wipes. You even get free shipping. And as a special offer for our listeners, new customers can get 20% off site wide with our exclusive code. Just use the code MyWorld at shopmando.com for 20% off plus free shipping. That's shopmando.com. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. Mando's got you covered with deodorant plus sweat control. Say goodbye to sweat stains and hello to long-lasting freshness. So, Jeff, I thought since we're having a little fun and talking a little bit about Eddie Gilbert today, what might be fun would be if we actually watched an Eddie Gilbert match. So stay tuned. We've got that coming up here in a moment. You don't need a second screen. You're going to watch it with us right now on YouTube. So if you're listening through your headphones, I want to encourage you to make your way over to myworldpod.com and we'll get there and watch this action in just a few minutes. But first, I thought we'd keep our conversation about Eddie going. So right now we're going to do Jeff's top 5 Eddie Gilbert moments right here on My World.
Number 5.
It's Eddie Gilbert versus Tiger Mask at the Philly Spectrum. Tell us about this one, Jeff. Tiger Mask is obviously a legendary name in the wrestling business. I think a lot of our listeners are at least familiar with his work or his legacy, but these are 2 all-time greats, but maybe for different reasons. Why is this number 5 on your top 5 list?
In a lot of ways, and I don't look, my memory is not exactly, but in a lot of ways. So gosh, I broke in April of 86, knew Doug 88, 89, 90, whatever. But as far as a firsthand account of somebody I knew that all that Doug, like, and look, you can go online and I've seen clips of it online, but maybe a firsthand account, Doug sharing that Eddie worked at WWF and had all these kind of matches, and obviously the car wreck that took place. But with that, before that, Eddie was, in a lot of ways just rising up the ranks, and he's like part family. And so my I guess you could say the first quote unquote big match, because Eddie wasn't around when I broke into the territory. He had gone off to different territories and working his way up to the ranks and WCW later and all this. But I guess you could say the first time that I heard, wow, Eddie Gilbert wrestled up north. He worked in Madison Square Garden. He worked for this and that. And then years later, when I saw his work with Tiger Mask, it is, and folks, like the speed of this match in 82, I can't say what was unheard of, but it was quick, fast paced. It was just, it's a precursor of what was to come. And so I had to put this in my top 5.
Number 4.
We got Tommy Rich and the Fabulous Ones. A lot of our younger listeners may not even know what we're talking about. Who were the Fabulous Ones? Tell us how we get here and Tommy Rich's involvement.
So this, this easily could have been number one, Connie, and here's why. Because the Fabulous Ones, the original Stan Lane and Steve Kern, they were both singles wrestlers here in Tennessee that not a lot of movement out of them. They were great talent, could wrestle their ass off. Jackie Fargo, the one and only, the legendary, he was the king of this area long before Lawler was, but he was the guy, and he was up in years, or certainly out of his prime. And my dad wanted to kind of like, all right, who can he give two guys rub to and kind of knight them? But the ultimate angle was going to be, I'm going to dress them up, and they're in top hats, and they're sharp dressed man, ZZ Top. If you know the videos, you know how they got over. During this era, it was just TV done differently, presented as stars, repackaged, if you will, but in a lot of ways they were packaged, came out to cool. But Fargo did the talking for him about basically, here's two guys, and he knighted them. But the whole angle was to roll this maybe 6 weeks, maybe 8 weeks, not long, but have those two guys basically shoot the old bull, beat up the fabulous fabulous one, Jackie Fargo. Lawler come in for the save, and they have an angle. They have a new team for Lawler and partners to work with, obviously starting with Jackie, and probably come back and do that. Conrad, those guys got over so good, so quick. There's no way, old man, he didn't even consider switching them heel, because they instantly got over and became huge, monster box office attractions in this territory. Went on to work for Vern and AWA, but they really shot up the ranks. Well, as talent runs their course, and they went on and left the territory and all that, as time goes on, my dad said, all right, let's go back to that original angle and figure out, get two guys to become the new Fabulous Ones, and then we'll switch them heel when the time's right. Tommy Rich, at this point in his career, like I said, just a seasoned vet, but in his prime, but just knew how to do it. Obviously, Eddie, second generation, knew how to do it, and that was the whole gist. They were going to come in and switch heel, and so I was a huge fan. This is mid to early 80s, and they did the angle, and again, two guys that I knew, Tommy being from Hendersonville, Eddie, son of Tommy Gilbert. And that's why, to put this in the slot, I think for the Tennessee territory, they just played such an important role. And I know my dad was, he loved the original because it made so much money, and he really personally liked both guys a lot. But then when you come kind of the next iteration of them, Tommy and Eddie, and switching heel, it just clicked.
I hate I didn't get to see that era. I mean, if I'm honest with you, my first introduction to Tommy Rich was in WCW, and obviously I saw him in ECW, and I saw him on some independents, but I missed the Fabulous One stuff. We're going to go back and try to watch some of that. And something else I can't wait to talk about is what comes in next on your list.
Number 3.
Number 3 on Jeff's top 5 favorite Eddie Gilbert moments is the King of Philadelphia tournament. Now, we've referenced King of Philadelphia a little bit, but expand and add some context to what's the tournament about, Jeff?
So you look, the whole list, and I hope Silva's got this, because to get into detail of it, I mean, it's a who's who would be, I shouldn't say available, but Funk and gosh, Hanson. But I just like the idea of Eddie's booking and the mindset, and how Eddie took, in a lot of ways, a concept. I think Tony Khan would agree and love the tournament concept, but it in a lot of ways, it gave a big time focal point of what they were trying to do in the promotion, and Eddie being the heel and booking it and putting all the pieces together. In a lot of ways, this is, if Eddie were alive today, look, he would have had much, but up to this point in his career, it would have to be, if not his favorite moment, right up there at the top, because he booked a incredibly deep roster of talent, and it in a lot of ways, it put the focus on Philly, and that was by design. Put the arena on the map, and obviously the King character, you know, the Lawler rub, if you will. Eddie loved to do that.
That of course is right in the wheelhouse of what we're talking about with the Eddie Gilbert tribute in the former ECW Arena at the corner of Swanson and Rittner. The King of Philadelphia is number 3 on Jeff's top 5 favorite Eddie Gilbert moments.
No doubt.
Number 2.
Perhaps this is the most famous clip of Eddie Gilbert's career, and it happened on Memphis TV live, and I think the authorities may have even been involved. It seems crazy, but Eddie Gilbert hit Jerry Lawler with a car in the parking lot of the studio show, and this is a news station, and the police I mean, this is crazy. Jeff, take us back to this.
Oh man, I was in Dallas this morning, but and this jogged up in my memory. I don't think I've shared it on a previous podcast, but the conversation that I got to have with Eddie Marlin, I think the following Monday, because he was still kind of shook up from it. So the story goes, and people have seen it, that Eddie Gilbert got thrown out of the studio, 1960 Union Avenue. It's an NBC affiliate where Channel 5 wrestling took place every Saturday morning for decades and decades and decades. But the argument took place, and Eddie Gilbert got thrown out of the studio by Eddie Marlin for dastardly deed, whatever he did, and he threw him out there, and they just literally, Conrad, and here's kind of the beauty of it, that you can so relate to it, that you didn't really hear much of the audio. Dave Brown is narrating on it, and he just shoved Eddie Marlin on his ass. And then, you know, the car pulls up, and Doug and him are going to leave, and Doug gets out, and Eddie gets over there, and Lawler comes out to the scene to pick up Eddie Marlin because he'd been shoved on his ass. And I don't want to say that it was very apparent. The viewer felt, okay, Eddie Gilbert's going to get in his car and run because the King's there, and that's what's going to take place. And Eddie Marlin's okay, no blood, no punching, glasses aren't broken. All right, let me pick him up and dust him off. And so I think in a lot of ways, just the beauty of the timing of how, because it doesn't take a lot of time. And I know TV today is rush, 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 push, push, push. But the cadence and Eddie Marlin coming out there, and then Lawler arriving on the scene, and then them picking him up, and Eddie walking to the car. He kind of run first and kind of walked over to the car and got in it. And then all of a sudden, you just kind of felt that sense. And the original thing was, hey, I'm just going to kind of jump out of the way, but you just kind of bump me with the car. But don't slow down too much. We can't look too much. And so Eddie Gilbert, Lawler did it, and Eddie Gilbert was going a little bit faster than the King intended, and he hit him head on. And Lawler, the balls the size of grapefruit, no doubt, just kind of, okay, Lawler I mean, fearless. The Joe LeDuc stories back in the day, and all kind of different stories about Lawler. But man, the car hit him, and he flipped and rolled over it, and Eddie Gilbert drove off. And on Monday, more than 48 hours later, you know, Eddie Marlin, we're talking, and he looks over at my old man. He's just like, I don't. Lawler's lost his fucking mind. Like, what the hell was he thinking? Because it wasn't, quote unquote, work in that sense. He hit him, and Lawler took a bump and knows what he's doing. And, you know, people in Hollywood, they would have rehearsed and had stunt doubles. It is amazing what the world of Hollywood do to recreate that scene. And they did it on a Saturday morning. And it was so emotionally engaging. Lots of folks called into the studio at the switchboard, and this goes back in time, but they called in and just reported Eddie Gilbert whatever you want, the legend goes, attempted murder and run over with a car. But they felt and emotionally enough engaged. They picked up the phone, called the switchboard, pissed off as hell. Well, they obviously called the police too. And the police station is less than a block away. A lot of people say it's right across the street. It wasn't, but it's right around the corner. And cops showed up on the scene. And that's why, today we can laugh tongue in cheek. But can you imagine Eddie Marlin talking to a police officer, trying to somewhat keep the integrity or kayfabe the industry, but let them know we don't want to press charges. We don't want to arrest Eddie Gilbert. I mean, Conrad, it's we're in such a different era, but you just got to chuckle at those times, because how do you not say, well, let's look at the tape. Now, wait a minute. Y'all playing this? Well, things got out of, just no matter what story you come out with, there ain't no people alive. There's the conspiracies went, it's just, I don't know if I'm doing a good job even explaining this, Conrad, because to this day, how do you explain that to a non-wrestling fan?
Without exposing the business.
Well, how do you explain it to a wrestling fan? Okay, hey, Lawler, I'm going to run you over with this car. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
It's a wonder nobody was arrested for real.
Not only is it not people were arrested for real, it's a wonder Lawler didn't have serious injuries.
Yes.
If you go back and really watch it, that is a car going 10 or 15 miles an hour. And, here's another part. Like, this is where we're half crazy or full crazy wrestlers, but it takes a lot of balls to do what Lawler did, right?
Yeah.
It also takes a lot of balls to do what Eddie Gilbert did. Hey, I'm going to get in this car.
Mm-hmm.
I got to run this guy over, but I can't. Look, we got to work Monday night. This is, we got to make money out of this. So that ain't as easy as it sounds. It's just not. And Eddie, when he hit him, the impact on the car, about shit in his pants. Like, and Doug will tell you to this day that they both went, oh boy. You can't stop the car and jump out. You got to drive off. Anyway, Conrad, it's part of the business that is, to me, so intriguing, so intoxicating. It gets the adrenaline going, and people are like, you're freaking nuts. There's just something unique about our industry that has always been around, always will be around. It's just different. It just is a unique industry with its ups and downs. But that story, Conrad, that angle, to me, in a lot of ways, that 7-minute piece it's not, we could take 7 minutes out of a match and 7 minutes out of a promo and, whoever it may be. But this is a type of professional wrestling presented the right way, where you go, now I want to see Lawler kick Eddie Gilbert's ass. Like the essence of what we, the very core of it. Does that make sense, Conrad? That why I definitely put it in my top 5, but kind of the essence of what we do is that you want to create engagement and emotion and excitement to see one guy face another guy. And that's that story did it.
Well, let's get to it. It's your top moment.
Number 1.
Number 1 on Jeff's top 5 Eddie Gilbert moments. Jeff, you have it down. You guys had a match in Jasper, Indiana. Why does this make the top of the list for you?
Because I had to really jog my brain. I actually got out my phone and maps, and I'm like, I know it's a Southern Indiana town. I know it is. There won't be footage of this. And my top 5, look, there was the match in several matches in Dallas, in Memphis, around the Horn. There were so many different options. And look, I could have done a top 10. And look, I didn't want to make all my top 5 certainly about Jeff and Eddie, although I could have. It's my podcast, my world. I kind of struggled. And as we're getting into these grooves of top fives and top tens and roll out and all that kind of stuff, I think I'll get better and better and better, because I want to deliver to our audience, what is that top five? What is intriguing? And then it hit me when doing the research and prepping and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, all right, what did he teach me? What was a fun moment? I've been hit by fireballs with Eddie. I've had all kinds of title matches with Eddie and different little nuances and all this. But if memory serves me correctly, Jasper, Indiana is we called it spot show towns, Thursday nights, that we did. We would run them. Most of the time, spot shows were run twice a year, maybe once a year, maybe 4 times a year. But Jasper was a town that I think at one time we ran every other month. Super successful. It just good building, good vibe, easy access, all the good things that went into it. Good sponsor, good everything that went with it. And me and Eddie walked in there one night, and I want to say both of us were running really late, because getting out of Evansville, because we were at Louisville on Tuesday, Evansville on Wednesday, and a spot show on Thursday. Got there, and I think there was a group of us coming from Evansville and a group coming from Louisville. Anyway, Eddie Marlin wasn't happy, some people late, but I walked in there and I said, hey man, don't worry. I'll put in as much time as needed. And then he went over to Eddie, and Eddie this is why I picked number one. Eddie's a guy that he literally, when it mattered, he would not just go the extra mile. He would figure out, how do we deliver kind of the Pat Patterson mentality. And I give Pat a lot of credit, not to this situation, but kind of ingrained it in me. Give them what they want and then give them a little bit more. And that is a mantra that's really stuck with me from a performance standpoint. And, in the music business, you have encores, and, they come out and do an encore, and then you leave the stage, and then another encore. And then a lot of times people, okay, 2 encores and that's it. And then all of a sudden you hit the right note and they do another one. You just like, holy crap. If you do it right, the people go, that's the best concert I've ever been to in my life, until the next concert they go to. But that type deal. So me and Eddie had a match. And at this time, we were doing DQs, and maybe I was going over if there's a title match in Southern Heavyweight title, go over. But he said, hey, Jeff, they need time. Let's do this deal. Just follow me out there. We'll go 30 minutes through. And then he said, I'll just kind of feel him from there. And I'm like, okay. And so, Conrad, this is something that, like the teaching moments in my career, just kind of laying it out. And I think I've referenced to Shawn Michaels when I was a year in the business, a year and a half in the business, the 10-minute Broadway, the things he kind of taught me in that I, to this day, would take to me, the psychology. You can apply it not just in 30-minute through Broadway matches, or 10 or 20 or whatever it may be, but you can apply it a couple of different ways. But we went out, we did the 30 minutes through, all the cool false finishes, and, the false go home at 15 minutes, and then maybe 22 minutes. And then I'm fighting for my life. We get to 30 minutes. And then he does the whole deal where I ask for 10 minutes, give me just 10 more minutes. I'm going to beat this guy's ass in 10 more minutes. And we get going, and I ask for the 10 more minutes. And then at about the 7-minute mark, Conrad, and I'll be off on this, but anyway, I'm rocking and rolling. Can't beat him. He's kicking out. And then all of a sudden he rolls over and gets a chair, and the referee takes a thumb in the eye. Anyway, he whacks me where I'm really on the cell outside the ring, and he rolls me in. And a lot of people in the arena, if they're buying this, they really believed, okay, Jeff screwed. And then he did another false finish, pulled the chain out, put your foot on the ropes. So about the last, and I hope you're following along with this, Conrad, because I'm telling this story right, the psychology. But the last 2 to 3 minutes were the audience was basically going, God, Jeff, just survive, kick out. And I kicked out, and I'm laying there, and Referee, goes to the announcer, this match is whatever it is, determined a draw. And Eddie Gilbert, the heel, gets up and he's bitching. I want 5 more minutes and I'm getting the win. I want 5 more minutes. I'm getting the win. And the referee comes and checks. First, the referee's like, no, we're not doing it. No, then they comes and check. And all I do is just kind of nod my head like, yep, maybe I'll go 5 more minutes. And he beat me up really quick for about 60 seconds and then shot me off, said small package. I beat him 1, 2, 3, and the people went crazy. And it was just kind of the art of telling a story that we did this multiple times on 50-minute Broadways, and I'd ask for 5 and then he'd ask for 5, just a way to kind of tell the story. But the people emotionally invested. I can remember Eddie Marlin, just talent. The boys liked it. Talent liked it. The fans. You just didn't really know what it was going to expect. And that was something. So we go 45 minutes in a spot show in Jasper, Indiana. But that's where one of those teachable moments that I go, okay, this is the psychology of the story as opposed to any move or any high spot or any of this. It's the emotion of literally focusing on winning and losing. And so I just, I can remember those kind of moments, but that's the first time I believe in Jasper is the first time I entered in it. So that's why I picked it. Anyhow, there you go, Conrad. That's why it's my number 1, because it's what meant the most to me is my relationship with Eddie as far as in-ring stuff.
What better way to celebrate your time with Eddie than to actually watch a match you had with Eddie? We're going to be doing that in just a moment. But first, we got to brag about our friends at Magic Spoon. We've talked a lot about nostalgia today. I mean, today's a throwback episode talking about some throwback talent. Speaking of talent, can I brag enough about Magic Spoon? By now, you already know that Magic Spoon makes high protein, 0 sugar cereal and treats. They've been reinvented from your childhood. You can taste the nostalgia. As a reminder, every serving of Magic Spoon high protein cereal has 13 grams of protein, 0 grams of sugar, and only 4 grams of net carbs. They come in all your favorite nostalgic flavors, fruity, cocoa, and frosted. Yeah, you know the ones. It tastes just like that, except without all the sugar and instead a ton of protein. I love their high protein treats. If you're watching with us on YouTube, you're taking a look at them. Man, they're crispy, they're crunchy, they're airy, and an easy way to get 12 grams of protein on the go. They come in delicious flavors too, like marshmallow, chocolatey peanut butter, and dark chocolate. I love the double chocolate, and I double dog dare you to try it. Both are great on the go. You can do them as a pre or post workout or even as a midnight snack. What are you waiting for? Go get $5 off your next order right now at magicspoon.com/myworld, or look for Magic Spoon on Amazon or in your nearest grocery store. That's magicspoon.com/myworld for $5 off. It really helps the show if you go right now to magicspoon.com/myworld, get a great deal and get some great taste from Magic Spoon. It's one thing to talk about wrestling, but now for the first time ever, we're going to actually get to watch wrestling together. What a better way to celebrate your time with Eddie Gilbert than to actually watch a match with Eddie Gilbert. And I think we've got that footage locked and ready to go. Let's take a look. So Jeff, this looks like we're in the Sportatorium. Do I have that right?
Buddy, I first want you to take a look at that good ring jacket, that black sequence. Yes, it's a Sportatorium. It was on one of my favorite venues. This is a cool setting. In a minute, me and you need to lay out to kind of hear the people that were in it. But Eddie, he just knew how to work, not just physically, but psychologically. James Beard, my old buddy refereeing. I believe we got Joe Pedicino and who else is at ringside? But anyway, it's a fun match. I watched some clips of this last night. But this is let's lay out here, Conrad. Listen to the people. There's that disrespect, Scotty.
So, Jeff, as a reminder, this is in Dallas at the Sportatorium. Man, the crowd's really hot for this. And I think this was booked for Joe Pedicino's GWF. Of course, as we all know, famously, there was a $25 million investment from a mysterious Nigerian backer And that's why you'll see some non-USWA talent showing up on this show, like Scotty the Body and One Man Gang and Dr. Death Steve Williams, even Terry Gordy. But this actually winds up airing on the USWA Challenge TV show, which was a part of syndication. But this went down on December 28th, 1990, if you're curious. So we're looking at something that's, golly, over 35 years, or about to be 35 years old, Jeff. How crazy is that?
It's hard to believe. There's a Memphis Punch for you. And some flair selling and funk selling. And, but yeah, it ended up though, Conrad, right on USWA syndication, because that whole Nigerian obviously ended up being nonsense. But I remember having breakfast and my old man saying, hey, if it's true, it's true. But, it never did pan out, but came to work down here. And this is during that kind of, gosh, the Dallas days were, you could write a whole book on that, from the time we got there to the time we left, and all the different players, from Kevin and Kerry to Akbar to Bronco Lubitsch. And then, gosh, Keith Mitchell had been gone by now, but we had Max Andrews and post-production house and just all the business ins and outs. But the Dallas faithful, you could hear them. They're rocking. They were ready to rock on a Friday night. Eddie, if my memory serves me correctly, would he have been booking this show too? I don't know if he would even know that. I'm not sure, but I think so.
Tell me a little bit about the referee here. Do you know who that fellow's name is? Because it looks like a young Dave Meltzer with a hell of a mullet.
No, James Beard. And James, I saw him.
I just saw him a couple of months ago, and I would not have recognized him. Isn't that wild?
Okay, so you know James, right?
I was just on a Zoom call with him 2 weeks ago, but I saw him at the TNT Hall of Fame in Waterloo. But I'm like, buddy, I did not recognize him here.
That's there. He's there. And here's a little, if you have the trained eye, that mat, hand painted, Red Man Wrestling Challenge. Now, in those days, I mean, you can't really. I mean, you can't advertise tobacco products on TV. But people who really know the history, that relationship with Pinkerton Tobacco was very, very vital to the Lawler Jarrett operation in the lean years as the territory was coming to a close. But Pinkerton, they got their advertising on TV one way or another. I think that would be kind of slipping through a few loopholes, if you will. But yes, a very, very valuable property, and nobody was putting sponsorships on maps on ring mats in the wrestling space back in those days, to my knowledge.
No, I agree. I mean, it was obviously, you saw it on like big boxing, but you didn't see it in wrestling at all.
No, and that's where I'll just give the old man some credit there. He knew how to chase the dollar on that. But this kind of basic, we got to go put in 15 minutes. But Eddie, again, just that's another thing. I hate to sound like the old timer, but just kind of knowing the basics of how to work the opening, I don't know, 3 to 5 minutes. But again, it's a different era. But Eddie,
in terms of get them hot and then settle them down.
Yes, just the cadence. And I know the business evolves. So it's TV's evolved, the business has evolved, everything with it. But I'll just say, for this era, a crisp TV match, Gilbert was not just good, he's great. He was, because none of this was called. Like, we just didn't do that back then. All we called was the finish. Go out, Jeff, and we're finished. Like, literally, we didn't talk through any of this. It's all, if you will, on the fly. It just, again, I get it, different business, but it was just a different, truly a different place and a different time in our industry.
Jeff, I want to ask, when you're performing like this for what would be a pilot and you're in the Sportatorium, are you and Eddie, I know you're trying to do your best every night, but are you putting a little extra on it because this might be the first time a new audience is seeing you? Or is it the same? Is it the same performance and same effort? Maybe that's the word I'm looking for, every time.
It's hard for you to say that. I mean, this may sound silly, but when you're wrestling on TV, I think you give it all you got.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think the effort was full tilt. Now, when you have a spot show in Jasper, Indiana, when you got to go time, I'm not saying the effort's less. The pacing is much less. And so for this era, a 15-minute TV match, if we would have done more, people would have said, "Oh my God, you're doing too much. It's too fast. It's too," we would have been highly criticized of, God, all you're doing is high spot after high spot after high spot. Me and Eddie put our working boots on and see, we're working the hold, and Eddie's, this is all psychology. We're working as hard as we think we should, as from as a physical point of view but we're working. I mean, and look, I'm working a guy's arm and he's got my leg. It's just a different style completely.
Yeah, you were working for wrist control, which is what they do in the UFC. I mean, so there is a more logical grappling component to this.
So much wrestling. Yes, so much wrestling. And me and Eddie, by this point, had worked quite a bit. Look, I'm selling it's just a different style. But in a lot of ways, that's why I like to, well, I'll say this. Last night, as you know, watch football, yesterday, workout, all that kind of stuff. We went out on the water. And then last night I sit down as I'm kind of prepping and do the different. So I get the link. I watch a little bit of this. And, the thing that jumps off the page at me was the crowd reaction.
Mm-hmm.
It's just different nowadays. People came to be engaged in the match. That doesn't always it's the audience is conditioned differently nowadays. I'm not saying better or worse, but when you hear the audio of this and know, okay, the people are into the psychology of this match. It's just
look how loose the ropes are too. I mean, what a difference.
I used to get so freaking mad. I'm like, guys, what the
Somebody's
hell?
gonna fall. Yeah.
No, I mean, that's how little the top rope was used. On this match, you'll see I do a drop kick off the second. And when I back up to get, I'll say this, red ass JR or red ass Connie, or every now and then red ass Jeff would get red ass on this.
Hey, these rings that you're using here, whose rings are these? Do you recall?
This is the Sportatorium ring. This is
how is it different from the Memphis ring?
A little bit higher off the ground because of the setting. Ropes are lower. And see, look at this. Eddie using my lace for leverage. It's just a different psychology.
When's the last time we saw that in wrestling?
You just don't. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying better or worse. It's just different. And if we dropped out right now and listened to the audio, people are like, we're working as opposed to high spots. Let's lay out here. Raise that audio. He used the bootlace to create leverage when I go back. It's just a different era. You like that kind of using the bootlace?
I love it. Who are the camera guys? I'm not saying you remember their names in particular, but are these the Dallas guys, or is this something that Pedicino lined up, or who is this?
This is the crew. This is the crew. Boy, how many times have we said this? This is the original OG Keith Mitchell crew. Like, by this time,
is Dan Bynum there?
I would think by 90, Keith and the main guys had gone to WCW by now. I think.
I got you. So the top guys had gone, but this is the OG world class crew.
This is the OG world class crew. Yes, the whole shooting match, and there's some security guards that have been there through, legendary. They worked every show.
I saw you dripping sweat a minute ago. This is December, and famously, this did not have air conditioning, so it was hotter than a $2 pistol in the summer. But in the winter, is it still hot?
Hell no. You go up about 10 rows, 15 rows up. I don't say it's cold, but cooler. But when you have a full building, but the lights in those days, like, you can kind of look, many a night when the summer I had to put off like, it'd be hard for me to get my ring. I sweat my ass off. Look at both of us are sweating. But the TV lights, and they were not brought in. That's another thing. That's why I love this venue. It was set up for a studio. Look at that crucifix, young Jeff Jarrett. But anyway, the whole setup stayed up. It truly was an arena made for wrestling. You know, Conrad, we've had our conversations about, you know, studio wrestling with the right look. Boy, oh boy, this, you know, not perfect, but man, oh man, lots of good wrestling has been done in this building, TV wise.
Were you already working the quote unquote hard cam in this era, or did that come in years after?
Oh no, I mean, you had to be aware of it. But let me say this: in this building, the handhelds, yeah, you had to. Well, you didn't have to. Not everybody did.
I mean, we're looking at a hard cam shot right there, though, right?
Yes. Oh, for sure. But you got to be very aware. To me, I was taught in this arena, you know, different things and observations. Kind of know where that handheld is.
Hey, I know it's silly, but I got to ask. You said you've kept all your gear. You still got this old gear?
You know what? I have the boots. I have not, and I've got see the red tights.
Mm-hmm.
Got the red tights. I have not seen those long tights, which is, I'll say this, Conrad, you got a good eye, because I immediately thought of that last night. I'm like, shit, now where's that bag of tights?
I noticed too that you were not wearing wrist tape here. When did you start to use wrist tape?
You know what? I noticed that too. It's a good question. I guess I don't know.
What did you call that now at this point? Because there's a legend out there that it was not called the double down until Vince Russo started calling it that. It was called something else. When both guys go down like that and the referee starts doing the count, what was it called in 1990?
Selling, but no, we called double clothesline.
And you just knew after a double clothesline, we both go down and we just wait and let the ref count. That was understood.
Yeah, you just sell. You're selling. Yeah.
So the referee bump here, obviously that would have been something that's discussed.
Here it is. Look at the top rope. I mean, Jesus.
Let's listen. Listen to those squeals.
Huh?
Those girls squealing.
I think James Jarrett did a little pull up here. Eddie kicked out of that. James had a 3.
So there's the actual 3 count, because you heard the announcer say that Jeff has won the Southern title, but there it is. Man, this was fun to watch this match. We got to do more of this.
Them blonde locks is sweating that night, bud, in December.
You know, I saw an interview years ago from Bryan Danielson where he said that it was difficult for him to watch his old stuff back because he would find himself being critical and thinking, I wish I would have did this. Do you still have that?
You know what? To me, I've kind of worked through this and I accept it for what it is on a much different level. I'm totally with Bryan. Yes, I totally relate to that, because there's so many things. And then you got to have to kind of go through the process that the people you know what you wanted, but the people don't know that. They are seeing everything for the first time. And, you know, like this right here.
So what's the story explain the story to everybody watching?
James Beard, so Eddie kicked out on the 1-2 O'Connor roll up, and then I clocked him with the chain, put it up, got the 1-2-3. Eddie stooges me off, said I got to hit with the chain. Now the ref's going to come in, find the chain on me, reverse the decision. On this, it's debatable, but the ref can get all the heat, and that's the wrong kind of heat. But this is where the psychology of I'm stooging it off to say, no, he carried the chain, and then Eddie is getting the heat back right now because he's lying his ass off, as opposed to just the referee saying, hey, you son of a bitch, you hit him with the chain. The milking after it is where how you draw the money, that Eddie lied his ass off and say, nope, but I'm saying in the jacket. So it's a little simple psychology. It wasn't that commonly known as the Dusty finish, or is the Dusty finish?
Yes. That's exactly what that is. Yes. By the way, that footage today was provided to us by Classic Wrestling, and it's updated weekly. That's right. more old nostalgia stuff. If you just can't get enough of the old wrestling, go check out our friends at Ultimate Classic Wrestling. You can find them at classicwrestling.net. You can enjoy this old school nostalgia wrestling on Roku, on Fire TV, on Apple TV, on iOS, and even on Google. It's available on all major streaming platforms. And right now you can use the special code Conrad30 and you'll save 30% off when you sign up at classicwrestling.net. That's classicwrestling.net with the promo code Conrad30 to save 30% off at classicwrestling.net.
That's what I thought.
Well, I loved watching.
That's he gets credit for a finish that had been done since the beginning of time.
Well, something else that's been done since the beginning of time is making smart decisions with your money. I'm talking about our friends at Cash App. Hey, if you've ever overdrafted your account back in the day, you know how disappointing that is. And listen, I know sometimes things happen, but that's why Cash App is here for you. You see, Cash App does more than you think when it comes to having your back. They want to make sure that your money stays your money. If you direct deposit at least $300 in paychecks each month and use the Cash App card for purchases, you can unlock up to $200 in free overdraft coverage. That's right, free overdraft coverage. And if you overdraft unexpectedly, there are no hidden fees. Manage your money on your terms and take advantage of free overdraft coverage up to $200 in the Cash App today. For a limited time only, new Cash App customers can use our exclusive code to earn some additional cash for real. Just download Cash App, use our exclusive referral code CashApp10 in your profile, and send $5 to a friend within 14 days. You'll get dropped $10 right into your account. Terms apply. That's money. That's Cash App. Cash App is a financial services platform, not a bank. Banking services provided by Cash App's bank partners. Prepaid debit cards issued by Sutton Bank, member FDIC. Overdraft coverage provided by Cash App, a Block Inc. brand. Visit cash.app/legal/podcast for full disclosures. So Jeff, we've talked a lot about Memphis and the good old days today. I feel like we should certainly give a brief update on Jerry the King Lawler, somebody that I know that you looked up to and that Eddie Gilbert looked up to. And there was some news that started breaking, and I really heard about it last week. I guess as we're speaking now, Friday before last, or around 10 days ago, Jerry the King Lawler allegedly suffered a stroke, and he's been hurting a little bit. Have you gotten any sort of update that at all about the King that you can share with us?
Well, the last update I got was a late Thursday, in the evening Thursday night. And Doug is the one who gave it to me, is that he was flying home, that, improvement. But Jerry's had these issues off and on. I don't think I should say stroke issues, but yeah, the results of that.
I mean, he had a stroke a few years ago, right?
Yes, that's what I'm saying is, and my understanding that he's had a few mini strokes through the time, but nothing, I should say, alarming. It's my understanding he had one that's maybe couldn't be classified as a mini one, but it's affected a different part of his brain. But Doug said that Doug talked to him and that he is improving, and he was headed home and he getting better. That's the last update I heard. So thoughts and prayers for my man, the King. Life, man, with all the political recent events, and you hear stories like this, Conrad, and, just life is short.
Life is short. I want to throw up our thoughts and prayers for Jerry the King Lawler. I mean, you want to talk about an icon in the wrestling business. And I know that a lot of our listeners who were watching and listening today, they didn't necessarily grow up in Memphis, but you have to respect Lawler as one of the great utility players. Not only was he a super talented artist who actually drew a lot of the cover art for programs and posters in Memphis, but then he learned his craft and he became one of the best baby faces, and then one of the best heels. And then he became one of the best promoters and one of the best bookers. And I think most of our audience is familiar that he's one of the greatest color commentators of all time. I mean, JR and the King are still iconic to this day. And I know that most people know him from his commentary role, but when you think about the psychology of wrestling and how to be an effective good guy and how to be an effective bad guy and how to help other people get over, whether it's through your booking or it's through your commentary, if you did it as well as Jerry the King Lawler. And I know that TMZ often, Jeff, they prioritize speed over, they'd rather be first than be right. And there was a report out there that, oh, his daughter's taking care of him and blah, blah, blah. The word I hear is, I think everybody knows that the King has a place in Fort Myers and of course his homestead in Memphis. And I think it was actually Jimmy Hart who made the drive and drove him all the way from Florida to Tennessee. And I think Jimmy's like freaking 80. And I just love that these guys are still sticking together all these times later. And we know King's had it rough, man. We all saw him have a heart attack on live TV 13 years ago in 2012. And then he had a stroke in 2018, another, I think what was described at the time as a massive stroke in 2023. But I just saw him not that long ago at Hogan's funeral and he looked terrific. I know he had made some appearances with a beard and gray hair, but I mean, he looked like Jerry the King Lawler again. He had all the dark stuff. And I don't know. I'm pulling for him and I'm pulling for Lauren, who is his, I don't know, former fiance, current fiance. I don't know, but one of the major loves of his life.
Former. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, either way, we just know that Jerry the King Lawler, man, if it's your sort of thing, let's throw one up for the King today. How's that sound?
There you go. Me and Doug, I'm going back to kind of the different conversations. And I'm trying to think who walked up to me, and then we went into another conversation. And then, Max Caster thought that was Tommy Rich, but wasn't real sure of like, and I'm like this. And and I just kind of connected. I'm like, anyway, I'm like, Max, would you believe at one time, because, a lot of modern folks probably remember Tommy from that Full-Blooded Italians, which is comedy, or maybe the York Foundation. That was the WCW, the Tommy that I knew, but yes, the Fabulous Ones, but the Wildfire Tommy Rich is the one that always kind of front center in my mind, and the role that, in a lot of ways Lawler played on it. But it got into another conversation that about the King, because the word, had traveled and people were asking me about that. And then, I just, start going down roads and thinking about the King, and man, oh man, I hope he pulls out of this, and just kind of the natural thoughts through it. But we've kind of had these conversations, Conrad, but when I look in totality, that the people that may be hearing me and you talk about the King for the first time, in that it's hard to put into words. And Cornette, just because Cornette was around it, Milliken or Mark James or any Memphis wrestling historian, but in Lawler's heyday in this, because there were no national television programs, it was all territory. So in his heyday in the territory, he was The Rock, Hulk Hogan, John Cena, and maybe a step further on notoriety in each hometown. He was that big. First as a heel, then as a babyface. Booker, creator. You go ask Ricky Morton about the conversation that he had with Lawler. Like, you want me to do what? I ain't going to wear bandanas around my damn tights. That's going to look silly. No, that's what you're going to do. Well, now Ricky would say, you couldn't blast them son of a bitches off my legs during their run. Just the creation of talent. Kamala. I mean, we could go on and on that. So as a heel, as a baby face, as a creator of talent, as a business guy, we can talk about a lot of folks get in this business, but as far as running day-to-day business, then a lot of people know him as the color commentator. But Lawler every Saturday morning, would craft and script promos and write TV and different shots and lay out angles and timing and all this. I really, and I know I'm biased because it's my home turf and all that, but I have thought through many, many times, I think about Bruno up north, or Dusty, or Flair, or Von Erichs, all the territory days. And let's move through the 90s, Austin, just Goldberg, Rock, Cena, all the different talents, and just think about around the globe. And, Inoki and Baba both started a talent, then they became businessmen. But were they creatives? Were they interview folks? I just kind of think has there been an individual in our industry that has contributed more from multiple hats? I just don't think Lawler has a peer in when you look at it on that level. Main event babyface, main event heel, legendary commentator, a booker who had multiple runs of success. As a legend, he performed at a high level, whether it was whatever they asked him to do. Just kind of his all around contributions, Conrad. I really do. And again, I say I know I'm biased, but I just find I'm challenged to think who's contributed in more ways than the King. I don't know who's in that conversation, but he's certainly right up there at the top.
Somebody who unfortunately is not going to get to the top of that list is Andrade. This guy is somebody that you and I are pretty familiar with. Of course, he was in the main event of Ric Flair's last match, and once upon a time did Thanksgiving at my house, but he won't be doing that at WWE anytime soon. On Saturday, it was revealed that they quietly cut ties with the former U.S. champion Andrade El Idolo, and our old pal John Alba from Sports Illustrated reported that the departure was not mutual. And I thought to myself, no shit. It's come out since. I think Dave Meltzer has reported that there was at least one wellness violation, 3. And he apparently, as the story goes, ghosted WWE. Now, I don't know if this is rumor and innuendo and what's real and what's not. I don't work there. I certainly didn't get this information or hear this rumor from anyone in the WWE creative department or anyone in management. But allegedly, he was going to be tagging with Rey Fenix at the Clash in Paris to take on the Wyatt Six. And allegedly, we would have had ourselves some new tag team champions. But something happened, and that is not going to happen. Instead of him getting a new gold belt, he got his walking papers. And as the story goes, was escorted out of the building, Jeff. So this is being framed as a mystery disciplinary issue. But if you go back to the night of WrestleMania, just before the show began, they made a big announcement out in front of the stadium. They had like a pre-show with a pre-show announce desk. And that's where we learned that WWE was going to be acquiring AAA. And I know there were a whole host of superstars and luchadors in the background there. And among them was Andrade El Idolo. And I said to myself, that dog won't hunt. I was fortunate enough to go down to Triple Mania a few years ago in Mexico City, and in casual conversations with Dorian, it was made pretty plain to me that old Andrade was not coming back to AAA anytime soon. I know it wasn't that many years ago that he had an opportunity to be in a pretty primetime match at Triple Mania against Kenny Omega. And of course, the Nature Boy Ric Flair was in his corner, and it was a big moment for AAA. But allegedly, he was difficult to do business with. And I didn't hear that from one person or two people. I heard that from everyone. And we know that he left WWE in 2021 and came to AEW. And well, I think you can Google it. He had some issues with Sammy Guevara, and maybe that wasn't always easy. Dave Meltzer even said he was difficult to do business with. And when Dave was asked on Wrestling Observer Radio, Jeff, if we would see Andrade back in AEW, Dave was pretty plain and said, I don't know what Tony's going to do, but I wouldn't do it. He's difficult to do business with, and you've got so much other talent. So it's not like AEW needs more talent. They could probably get it done with people who are a little easier to do business with. I don't know if you have any Andrade experience you can share with us, but I know you've at least heard about and seen a lot of disciplinary actions, guys ghosting and being difficult to do business with. So you've seen the news that we've all seen. What do you believe? And what do you think is next for Andrade? Because where I sit, it feels like he did this as a way to say, because I think there's a story out there, Jeff, that, well, he wasn't interested in working with AAA. I don't think he was ever offered the opportunity to work with AAA. I don't know. I haven't asked Dorian this, but that's the way he felt in 2022. And I feel like, at this point, Andrade's probably used to WWE money, which respectfully is different from what AAA money was when he was there before. And So maybe Andrade felt, hey, I can't make enough money down there. I'm not interested. I don't care. But if he finds himself out of WWE and out of AEW and out of AAA, it feels like maybe he needed to manufacture some sort of public breakup, because CMLL is certainly waving the banner that, hey, we're the only 100% Mexican owned lucha libre. We're the authentic lucha libre. Maybe that's the angle, but that's not going to replace the WWE income. So maybe he's got experience with New Japan. And as you know, Jeff, there's a ton of independent wrestling shows in Mexico that the internet never finds out about, that happen every day in every corner of Mexico. So he could make a good living for himself, but not probably WWE money. Where do you land on all of this, Jeff?
Hey, Dave, will you go two shot just for a second? Because my first reaction.
Oh, I already know what you're fixing to do. I bet it's a visual thing too. Backstage at Ric Flair's last match, there's some discussion about, hey, Jeff, you can take the Canadian pile driver, right, Jeff? Yeah, didn't think so.
You know what? All kidding aside, we're having fun here. And we've said it on this podcast multiple times, specifically during the Ric Flair last match era, but even around that, before and after, is the guy has incredible athletic ability.
Yes.
And not just athletic, because that doesn't always, but he's got an aura. He can work his ass off. He's really, really good. You glossed over and said not one, but three other. So I look, I am way on the outside looking in. It is, and he won't be the first talent, certainly won't be the last, with a boatload of potential that I just hope he doesn't come in the category that goes into, oh my God, can you believe that guy didn't fill in the blank? But I said it a couple of weeks ago, and a guy quote tweeted, and I appreciate that. You know, it starts with the man in the mirror.
Yeah.
When you have what you just said, that history, that we know there's an issue with AAA. We know there's an issue with WWE, not once, but twice. We know there were issues there. At some point, look, I've certainly been there, and I think in a lot of ways we've all been there on one way or another. I hope nothing but the best for the guy, that he pulls the nose up. But damn, it doesn't look good. The thing, and I don't know if you can confirm this, but when you're escorted from a building, no bueno. That is not good. I hate that for all parties involved, because if it got to that, Conrad, like, that ain't good, dude, on any level. So I hope he pulls the nose up. I really do. I hope, because he's young enough. He's got a boatload of potential. He's very, very good. I hope he, I do. I hope he really gets things turned around, because that, you know, it's his track record right now is not good.
And it's not good from a reliability standpoint. You know, all the time, that's what JR is talking about. When he was head of talent relations, he would always say it just comes down to reliability. That's the number one thing he looked at as the head of talent relations, because I think we all agree Andrade is handsome. He's in great shape. His in-ring is incredible. He does have a star aura. For whatever reason, I don't think he ever really had an opportunity, or maybe it just never happened for him where he could really tell the stories verbally. I'm not saying that he didn't learn English. He did, but I don't think he was necessarily the strongest promo. But when we saw him cut promos in Spanish, man, it's hellfire and brimstone. The guy's talented. The guy he can make a living anywhere he wants. But I'm just wondering, as you sort of scratch off stuff, like eventually it gets to a point where, hey, you've kind of capped your own income here a little bit now. Is that fair to say?
But look, I go back to this isn't a wrestling. This is a life situation.
Yes.
No doubt. He's got to look, and I'm gonna get off my soapbox. I'm not on it, but if there's any one thing that you have to do in this life, when you got to pull that nose up, and it all starts with literally sitting down and I say that, but I'm not joking, but dead serious. Look in the mirror, start with that person and really say, how do I get better today? And do it again the next day, do it again the next day, get doing it the next day, period.
I talked to a WWE performer, not who you think it is, who said, "Hey, he's going to be fine. He just needs to get his shit together." And I, for one, hope that he gets his shit together, whatever that means, because some guys that you and I respect, man, they tell me he's one of their absolute favorites to watch in the ring. And he's one of their absolute favorites to work in the ring. But where is he going to get these opportunities now? I only say that because we know that AEW is so respectfully crowded with talent. Like there's no shortage of talent in AEW. So it's not like, hey, if Andrade's on TV this week, yeah, we'll get 3,000 tweets, but it's not going to move ratings. It's not going to sell tickets. He's going to be he's going to give you great matches, but there's a boatload of guys in the back right now who can give you great matches.
I had a conversation Saturday at the end of my workout with an old basketball buddy at the gym and catching up on this guy. And Conrad, the amount of stories that we had in 15 minutes of talking, oh God, this guy should have made it to the pros. This guy should have had a D1 career. This guy should have had that. There's so many people that go through life that have a boatload of talent, but that don't get the job done. You got to have a lot more. You got to get your together.
And by the way, I'm pulling for him to do that. I know that because of the, former relationship, people are thinking that I'm trying to dump on Andrade. I'm not. I love his in-ring stuff. I thought he had absolute bangers with Cody and others. That match he had with Rey Mysterio a few years ago on TV, out of this world. He's going to be fantastic, whether it's CML, it's New Japan, it's the Indies. But we know for now, it's not going to be WWE. I know Andrade is not a podcast guy. And if he was, he probably wouldn't be listening in English. But if you could convey a message to him as someone who has gotten his walking papers from WWE before and reinvented himself, what would your advice to Andrade be?
Literally what I just gave. Wake up today and figure out, let me look at my role in every set of circumstances that's taken place. Because if you don't really know how you got to where you're at, then you're never going to get your game plan and all the different corny sayings that people say, but fail to plan to fail. So that comes to my mind, but you kind of have to look at my role in what did I do wrong at the WWE a few years ago? What did I do wrong at AEW? What did I do wrong with AAA? And if you really come to the answer, I didn't do anything wrong, dude, you got to go talk to somebody else, period. You just, it ain't clicking that because you got to be better. That would be it. Look at the man in the mirror.
We know we've heard all the reports that he tried to leave AEW the right way. He wrote a great farewell post. And since we've been on the air recording this morning, Jeff, he's took to social media today with a message to WWE. I think this might be step one in the right direction, where he said, "Thank you, WWE."
Good.
And I'm pulling for him. I do want to ask one more thing and then we'll move on. The report is that he just ghosted. And that makes me think of like Stan Hansen or Brody or one of the Cowboys from back in the day who just, hey, I'm going to do what I want to do. Sorry. I'm a wild horse. You can't break me. Do you remember anybody when you were running TNA who just straight up ghosted?
Oh Lord.
Like you called for weeks and you just couldn't get him. Like, well, hope he's alive, but he gone.
Oh God. I you know what, if you press me to it, that, geez, no, I mean, you hear of different stories back in the mid 80s. You hear those stories that, I mean, even from Snuka to JYD to Hercules to just different folks that they ran them so hard that all of a sudden you wouldn't hear from them for a couple of weeks because they just, whoa, I've got to decompress, and then they get back running. I mean, and I'm not pointing fingers at anybody, but there's different names. But look, when I look back at it, different things, thoughts as you've kind of come into my mind that just the like, God, Conrad, how many times I preach to myself first, to my kids, to everyone, is as far as the over communication. If you got an issue, let's talk about it. That was something that got me it changed the trajectory, and there's a lot of things that go into it. But in the mid-90s, when I'd had enough at WWE, had I really over communicated? But I didn't. I was young. I made mistakes. Not to get political, and it shouldn't be political, but that was something that I'm going to take away from the passing of Charlie Kirk, that when the conversation stops, that's the worst thing that can happen. And that's where, like, talk about it, like communicate the good and bad of it. That's where I'm kind of going with it. For it to get to the point that he got escorted from a building, there's major lack of communication somewhere on his part, because he got to a breaking point, obviously. But I like the tweet. Let's keep rolling, turn things around.
Well, something that you'll never worry about is lack of communication from my team at savewithconrad.com. I've been helping people save money since 2001, and I'd love to help you and your family do that exactly right now. You don't need perfect credit or money out of your pocket, but if you're renting, what are you doing? Let me show you how to get a plan to get into a home of your own. Did you know that you can own a home for less than your current rent? We can make it happen for you right now at savewithconrad.com. And we're not your typical bank outfit. We're not bankers at all. You see, we don't say no, we say not yet, but here's how. Well, you need a plan. And if you've got credit card debt, man, we want to help you get out of that too. I'm routinely helping our podcast listeners save $500, $600, $700, even $800 a month. And you don't need perfect credit or money out of your pocket to do this. But it's not a matter of if I can save you money. It really is a matter of how much. And we want to be your mortgage advisor for life. I even put it in writing. We're going to get you a 3-year guarantee. If interest rates fall in the next 3 years, and all the experts seem to agree that's going to happen, you won't miss out. You'll save as much money as you can right now today without wasting money later. We're not going to charge you any lender fees. Find out how much money you can save right now for free. It's no cost. It's no obligation. And you can email me directly at conrad@savewithconrad.com. You can give us a call toll free anywhere in the country. Yes, we're licensed in your state too, at 888-425-0105, or get a quick quote. Even talk to a live person right now at savewithconrad.com. NMLS number 2129, equal housing lender, savewithconrad.com. Jeff, the big news that we've got to cover before we get out of here, and this is going to get some people fired up, I'm sure. We're talking about the announcement that happened this past Friday. WWE is going to be doing WrestleMania outside of America. And no, I'm not talking about Toronto like they've done a few times. They're going to Saudi Arabia. Now, listen, they've been doing the Saudi shows for a long, long time, but this is the first time that WrestleMania is going there. And I think this was leaked ahead of time from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. So they wanted to announce it this past weekend in Las Vegas. It was a who's who. It was a big weekend for TKO. They not only had the AAA show with the WWE support, of course, but they also had a UFC, and they had a big boxing event, their very first TKO boxing event. They broke all kinds of records for that. But somewhere in the middle, they did this press conference, except there was no media. No media was there. No questions, no boos, no cheering. But if you took a look where WWE uploaded this, it was like a 45-1 ratio. Thumbs down versus thumbs up.
Wow.
I'm concerned they're alienating fans in a major way here. Fans are upset because of the association with Saudi Arabia, because of the perceived increased ticket prices, because fans won't be able to affordably go visit this event and participate. And now there's speculation that there might be a second WrestleMania that year. I've even heard it might be in your backyard at the new Nashville stadium they're building. What do you make of this decision? I mean, we talked to Raj Giri last week with Eric Bischoff on 83 Weeks when the news was just breaking last Thursday. And he said he believes that Saudi's probably paying a multiple. Now, we've heard once upon a time that they were paying $50 million for one of those Crown Jewel shows. So a multiple makes me think, are they going to get 150? Are they going to get 200 million guaranteed? I mean, we heard Shapiro recently basically say, hey, Vince tried to book these shows for families. And in his own words, he quoted Hulk Hogan loosely and said, these fans can stick it, brother. We're going to maximize our leverage and deliver shareholder value. We're going to follow the UFC model, and we're going to keep driving prices up. We've seen huge UFCs in Saudi. We've seen huge boxing in Saudi, but WrestleMania was a part of Americana until now. What do you think of this, Jeff?
Conrad, we have to follow up on this next week, because I think there's so many, to me, tentacles on all this. But look, we have stated on this pod multiple times, this should come as no surprise. Vince McMahon, for better or worse, built the WWE, and he did what he thought what was best for the fans, and not a fan, across every demographic. That's how he built his business. His father built his business that way, and so on and so on. We said it. Ari and the board of TKO have the number one priority to deliver shareholder value at any and all cost. What puzzles me is that they bought this billion-dollar asset, and they bought it from Vince. No matter how you slice it and dice it, Vince bought the business from his father. He took it in 82, built it to 2002 or 2022, whatever it is, that timeline is. And he turned around and they were on CNBC. Handshake, boom, they're doing it. Vince sold it to Ari. Ari hates sellouts because he feels like he didn't price the tickets high enough. And so their mindset is, yeah, Vince did a great job building this business, but he really didn't know what he was doing. He just didn't charge enough money. We're going to charge more money. That's where look, everything they've touched, that Canelo fight, crazy kind of money, the ESPN deal, they've done Nick Khan, deal after deal after deal after deal after deal. We'll get to the AEW opportunity maybe at another time, because I think not just the AEW, but the industry as a whole. But it's and look, they're going to either prove us right or prove us wrong. But I had no idea it was that big a sway that people were giving it thumbs down. And I understand that's a
Jeff, when they ran the commercial in Vegas at the AAA show, they ran it on the Jumbotron. The fans started chanting, "You sold out."
So Conrad, that's what I'm saying. I want to be very careful not to judge. The thing that, to me, I was not just surprised, I was shocked. I was shocked that RA said Vince McMahon priced.
It was Mark Shapiro, but yeah.
Oh, no. Yeah, but yeah. Oh, okay. Mark said it, but he's speaking
Management. Yes.
Yeah. So the TKO head honchos basically said, we bought this asset. Vince did a good job. We're going to do a better job. And here's how we're going to do the job. So I just, like Toby Keith, I'll never forget it, how he was said it, where he was standing, how he leaned against the wall. I could take you to the place, through the elephant door in Huntsville, Alabama, through this, walked on his bus, sit down, all that kind of stuff. Jeff, yeah, I got some words of advice. Know your audience and earn them one at a time. We'll see. But
we'll talk about it next week. We want to hear from you in the comments below. Let us know. What do you think about WWE taking WrestleMania to Saudi Arabia? We're going to have a discussion about it next week in long form. Stay tuned for that. We've also got some really exciting tricks up our sleeve. The show is going to look and feel a little different. We're changing our software on the back end next week. So this is going to be fun. Stay tuned. But Jeff, I can't believe this is real. This weekend is another fantastic AEW pay-per-view. All Out is going down this weekend in Toronto. It's a homecoming for Adam Copeland and Christian Cage. They're taking on FTR. And of course, we've got something for everybody. How about Mercedes and Riho? How about Moxley and Darby in a coffin match? How about MJF and Mark Briscoe in a tables and thumbtack match? A 4-way for the women's title. Kyle Fletcher gets his shot at the big belt. A 4-way for the unified title with Okada and Takeshita involved. Eddie Kingston's back, Brodito and others in a ladder match. They always over-deliver, and we aim to right now here at myworldpod.com. Hit that subscribe button, turn on the notifications bell, because immediately following All Out on pay-per-view this weekend, Jeff and I will be live on YouTube. We want to hear what you think about the show, how excited you are about the show. We're going to start immediately as soon as the pay-per-view finishes, and we'll be done before Tony Khan's press conference starts. So you won't miss a thing at the press conference if there's any breaking news there from TK, but you'll certainly get the opinion from the last outlaw only at myworldpod.com immediately following All Out. It's a homecoming for the former Edge and Christian in Toronto. I'm fired up for it. And Jeff, I can't believe this is real. Right here at the buzzer, we've got breaking news, Jeff. And just earlier today, we announced a new promotion here on the show, Color with Conrad. And I can reveal that we have already got a winner, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not kidding. Look at what's already been submitted during the show as a part of our live studio audience.
At the front door.
No, seriously. I'm not kidding around.
Nonsense.
Hey, listen, let's go ahead and give him his props. Coach Rosie, a member of our ad-free shows family, he's taking a picture of this thing, holding it up. He went to work. He was a part of our live studio audience and held it up, got his coloring done. We're super happy that Coach Rosie now has
a bitch slap. Coach Rosie, you're getting a anyhow. Nobody does AEW pay-per-view, does pay-per-view like AEW, and right as the main event rolls out, Conrad, we may jump on after the bell, but before they sign off, okay?
I look forward to it. Immediately after the bell, join us right here on
Peace.
Come on.